Hello, Steve White, Steve White 89. Well, I'm back to talk about Creepshow, Season 3. I loved it. Season 2 was a little bit rough. They had to do with some production issues. Season 3 didn't have those issues. Lot smoother. The first episode, Mums, is about the son of a wife who apparently has mental issues, but she's killed by her husband because he's basically a terrorist, and he's like a alt-right sort of so she was going to tell on him, so he kills her for that. He hides it from the son. The son eventually finds out, thanks to her and her flowers that she has been growing, and either way, justice is served. Then we have Queen Bee. Now, this episode starts off well. It's a bunch of kids who are obsessing about their favourite pop star, Regina, who is now pregnant. And one of the girls' mothers works in a hospital, and she's let them know that Regina is actually having the baby in that hospital. So, of course, they sneak in, and they find out that she's some sort of monster from another universe that is, like, possessed, and it gets crazy real quick. And it goes along fairly well, but then at the very, very end, there's this really bad fake twist, and you could see through the episode they were writing to the end of the episode, and it's like, well, they knew how it was going to end, and they were just writing things to get them to that place. It really didn't work. And at the last minute, they have, I don't mind spoiling this because it's awful, one of the girls basically turns on the other girl and just basically, yeah, I was on the other side the whole time. Like, that's the worst shock ending. So sometimes they'll ruin a really good episode of something or a movie just to get a twist ending in, just for the sake of it. This is one of them. But yeah, okay. So Skeleton in the Closet is kind of an interesting one, where there's a guy running a Hollywood horror museum, and he's about to open it up, and he's got this competitor who's always outbidding him for these exclusive items. So you see all these awesome props. You see Jason's mask from Jason Goes to Hell, and Captain Kirk's chair, and the original Creep from Creepshow. All this sort of stuff. It's really great. The story is interesting. The competition, well, it leads to somebody's death. So and an interesting reuse of their bones. So that was a good episode. Familiar was a little bit meh. Basically, some people go to a fortune teller, and they're told that there's something after them, something followed them. It's a familiar. This guy tries to trap it, and that doesn't go well. And of course, it's not who he thinks it is. So I don't want to ruin the end of any of these in case someone actually watches this before they actually watch the show, which could happen. I don't even want to spoil for one person, so it's like a non-spoiler review of the whole season. The next one, the last Tashibaru, I can't remember how to pronounce it. Basically, it's an Asian artist, and he had this painting basically hidden for years and years and years, and no one could see it. And this guy buys it because he's a millionaire, and he opens it just so he can see it, and then he burns it so no one else sees it. It's got a whole room of people who think they're finally going to see this hidden artwork that's been hidden for years, and he destroys it just so he's the only person who ever sees it. What he doesn't realize, unfortunately, is there's a demon in the picture which now is only hunting him. So I guess you can work out how that ends out, and he deserved it. No one should hide art. Art should be for everyone. So I was particularly offended by that character. Okay, I'll Bite is a guy in prison. His friends are spiders, and one of them is very big and scary. And the effects, I couldn't watch the screen in a couple of scenes because the spider is just too much. Strangest things is we have sirens, and they are killing men, but one of them has a change of heart and tries to twist the situation into them basically freeing themselves from their actual siren. So that was interesting. I mean, there were some slightly sexist things in it, I felt, but it kind of worked. And the ending, yeah, not going to go too much into it. Meter Reader was kind of disturbing. This one was basically it's a virus, a pandemic, and people are becoming possessed. And you basically see a family dealing with the father going out to fight, the possessed, and coming back, and they think he's possessed, and then having to deal with the whole, family. Someone, it's a little heartbreaking, but you sort of know what's going to happen, but it's just sort of them actually having to deal with the reality of, you know, killing a relative that you know, is now, you know, the enemy basically. Time's Out. This was kind of interesting one. This guy inherits an armoire that if you go into it, time freezes for you. So he becomes a lawyer and he uses it basically to do all these case studies. So he's just like, you know, working at a super pace and winning and getting to the top of, you know, his firm and everything. But what he doesn't realize is all the time he spends, you know, in the armoire, he's aging. So even though he's like 30, he's really like 50. So dealing with the repercussions of that and the whole putting his family in front of his career and all this stuff. It's an interesting episode with a very nasty little twist ending, which works. Most of the twist endings work. Occasionally, some of them don't. Now, things in Oakwood's past. This was an animated one, like the special in season 2. It didn't really work animation style. Like it's not real animation. It's like this weird comic book sort of animation, which just comes off as cheap. I get that they're trying to make it like, oh, the animated comic comes to life, but it just doesn't work. And the story wasn't that interesting either. There was a time capsule, and they're going to open it, of course, on a anniversary. But of course, something else is in it that they weren't expecting. Drug traffic is a weird political one where they a left wing virtue signaling politician takes a bunch of immigrants to a border town basically to show how they're treated, and we do have this really sort of redneck racist official, but then he seems far more seems to have far more integrity than the politician who's just there to score points, and it comes across a bit too right wing, but I think it's trying to show both sides, but it's more sympathetic to the right wing. I didn't really like it for that. But some of the monster effects in that were interesting, and the way it all goes awry is kind of interesting. And the last one is A Dead Girl Named Rose. Is it Rose? Oh my god, I can't read my own writing. Rue. It's set in 1968 during the Night of the Living Dead, and basically there's a kid in the town he's an adult now, but he's always gotten away with crimes against the town because his father was the mayor or something. But because everything's falling apart because of the zombie apocalypse, the town's members decide to get revenge on him and punish him for what he's done, and he ends up stuck in the cell with a girl he killed who's now a zombie, and yep, so he gets what he deserves. And they do a fairly good job of showing like a side story you know, of Night of the Living Dead, something that was happening elsewhere while the other events are happening. So it was really interesting the way they did that. It's in black and white and everything. The only things that are coloured are a couple of objects of the girl. But yeah, overall season 3, great. I tried to watch it at night, but unfortunately because my insomnia, my night ends up turning into day, and because of my insomnia I have trouble watching things because I sleep deprivation, I fall asleep. So I struggled through watching the episodes, but I got through them, and I enjoyed season 3 pretty much as season 2 and season 1. 1 was perfect, 2 had a couple of issues, 3 has had a couple of issues. Nothing's perfect, but I'm still looking forward to season 4.